our institutions, our governance, our patience, as we've all been social distancing of one kind or another. Today, we come to an extraordinarily profound question. Is sustainability spirituality? And this may be one of the first forums where something like this is being considered. And I think just to give people a sense of the gravity of this question, it's important to very briefly look at the history of sustainability. You know, it was only in the 1960s, about 60 years ago, that the Club of Rome, in its famous book, Limits to Growth, said that the Earth has a carrying capacity and that we humans need to respect that there are limits to what we can do. And this report sent shockwaves through the global system because it had really never occurred to anybody that you couldn't do pretty much literally anything you wanted to do to the Earth and get away with it, and the Earth somehow was going to be just fine. That generated this notion of sustainability, and the word sustainability began to enter into public parlance. In 1982, there was the first ever major conference on sustainability in Rio de Janeiro, as leaders came from all over the world, except for President George Bush Sr., who said famously that the United States doesn't do sustainability. The United States is about progress and unlimited capitalistic growth. But sustainability continued to gain currency. And we now have the UN Sustainable Development Goals. We now have a commitment in some form or another by virtually every country in the world to work toward sustainability. And the other vector that has come into what was initially an economic word, an ecological word, is the research of James Lovelock. Just about the time sustainability was beginning to enter the common public domain, James Lovelock, in his now famous book, Gaia, began to assert the Gaia hypothesis that the Earth is in fact a living organism that is intelligent and is developing evolution by design, which is an extraordinary assertion for a scientist to make. It's not random, it's by design. And it began to dawn on more and more people that the Earth that we inhabit is not just a piece of rock hurtling through space. It's actually a living organism. And that we humans are children of a mother that produced us for a reason. And our central task with our lives is to discern why we're here. Several weeks ago, in a dialogue with Jean Houston, who's one of the great mythologists of our time, she was asked, so what archetype should lead humanity now? And as you all know, there are hundreds, if not thousands, of archetypes of every conceivable kind. She says there's only one. That's Gaia. All of us, whatever culture, whatever language, whatever walk of life, need now to understand that we have a special obligation to Gaia as the basis, she said, of the new spirituality. So when we ask the question today of whether sustainability is spirituality, And what is the purpose for which we were born? We're asking the question within the context of the fusion of what was initially an economic and ecological word and the growing awareness around the world that sustainability is in fact a spiritual practice in service of a living organism of which we are an integral part. So I want to thank the panel. And once again, I want to turn it over to my very good friend and colleague, Peter Merry, who is the Chief Innovation Officer of Ubiquity University and a co-convener with me and others of Humanity Rising. And Peter will commence our program. Thank you, Peter.
Great, thanks, Jim. Yeah, and welcome to Humanity Rising today. Exciting panel, and there's lots of them. So I'm not going to take too long to hand it on to Jarvis, who has convened this group of people and has an interesting process lined up for us that we're all very curious about. I don't think the panelists even know what's going to happen. So it's going to be a big surprise for everybody. Just on that one theme, you know, having, I guess, myself gone through a couple of phases of being the hardcore environmental activist, and then realizing that, you know, unless we do our own inner work, then what we start doing is projecting the mess on the inside into the world on the outside. So you can't have kind of effective activism, whether it's in the business sector or more in the social sector, without actually working on yourself. So it's, and on the other hand, there's no point in just sitting on the cushion all day and doing your own practice without actually engaging the world, because you don't get the mirror back to yourself of what's really going on. So that combination of either spiritual activism or activist spirituality, either way, in my experience, is really key. Otherwise, you're kind of missing a big part of the puzzle. So I'm very curious about what Jarvis is going to do. I'm going to hand it over to him at around, let's see, that'll be 6:30 Central European time, 5:30 UK time. We'll take 15 minutes or so to go into some of the questions live that come up in the chat. In the meantime, feel free, everybody, to interact in the chat with each other. Make sure that if you are wanting to contribute through the chat, that you select all panelists and attendees. It's automatically just set on all panelists. We love seeing your comments, but I think everybody else would like to see them too. So do select all panelists and attendees if you want to share. Good, that's it for now. Let's get on with it. Jarvis, over to you.
Peter, thank you very much and Jim, for such a warm-hearted, very wise, it's like listening to elders. So I very much appreciate the wisdom that you've opened up and created a space for us. And also thank you for having us. It's a huge just network that you have here. And I feel very honored to be a part of it. I'm here with Katie. So you'll see Katie here sitting over my shoulder.
Hello.
We're actually
screen sharing.
Yeah, we're screen sharing because there's too much of an echo if we both use separate computers. So but we are both founders of an organization called My Green Pod. And a brief introduction to My Green Pod, it's essentially an ethical lifestyle, inspirational platform that helps people consume in a more conscious way. So we try and inspire people to make purchases that are less damaging to themselves, less damaging to the planet, and more importantly, offering a more restorative opportunity for our future generations. Now, climate change and climate crisis clearly are an issue of our time. We're all aware of it, and even the BBC News talks about it now on a regular basis. So thankfully, the planet has done enough advertising of a situation that we all need to be aware of. And thankfully, our media are now picking up on it as well. But we've been doing this for 12 years. So, but the reason I'd share that is because 12 years ago, when I had an epiphany moment that I wanted to do something to inspire others, I didn't actually really want to do anything to do with the climate crisis or ethical consumerism or, the way people purchase stuff. I actually wanted to create, I guess, for want of a better word, a spiritual type magazine and kind of program, because that's the way I'd been educated. I'd been trained with a shaman for 14 years before I came into business. And all of my teaching was about listening to nature, trying to interpret what we were being, what nature was sharing with us, and then trying to work as a dance with nature and creation. So all of my training was about that. It was never business. It was never to run a media company. It was never to now run, probably one of the UK's most successful ethical lifestyle organizations. But if I'm very honest, 12 years ago, the people that I was speaking to, I always try to focus my stuff on a mainstream audience, back then weren't actually ready to really listen to what I understood to be spirituality. So that's why I brought the question to the party today: is sustainability spirituality? And I'm going to be introducing you to the most amazing, eclectic bunch of beings that are incredibly wise, are using their intelligence, their beingness in their businesses to shape society in a way that might have a kinder, more purposeful, more value-driven, more impactful way of being for others to experience. And some of these people I've met through the pandemic, through lockdown, and some of them I've known for a very long time. But the reason I've asked them to join me today, and they don't even know, they just very gladly put their hand up and said, yes, we'd love to join you, is because they have a level of intelligence and consciousness that not many people in business have. And so I've invited them here to share some of the way that they do things with us in a conversation, in a dialogue, and in perhaps later on in the process where we can connect with the unified field, connect with Gaia, connect with Source, connect with all of those entities around us that are here to help and support us, and just to see whether any further magic could come out of the collective conversation as we unite and join with you all, with us, and obviously with our inner selves and our outer beingness. So that's a brief introduction, but it will just very quickly bring me to this. In 2007, I was invited onto a television show called Dumped. It was on Channel 4. It's where we had to, 10 individuals had to live on a landfill. And it was a show to highlight what is one person's waste is another person's gold. What one person is throwing away is useful to another person. And we had to live there for 3 weeks. And the reason it was called Dumped is because we had nothing there apart from other people's waste. And so we had to build somewhere to sleep, somewhere to eat, somewhere to shower, somewhere to go to the toilet. We literally had to build everything that we required in order to survive. Now, for me, this experience was not too short of somebody that had been in the tsunami that had happened just a few years previous, the New Orleans hurricane, which made a lot of people homeless and a lot of people died. And so I embraced this scenario in a way that I thought, actually, this is a situation that could happen to any one of us at any time, in any moment. So I took this challenge on, which, there were TV producers, and actually the TV producers were our gods. They were the people that made, allowed us to make decisions, yes or no. But the experience had an impact on me, and I'll share it with you, which is why we're having this gathering today. And it's this. On the 3rd week, the local rubbish van went round the local streets to pick up the waste from the houses and came and dumped it on what was now our home. And we had to dress up in protective clothing and, masks and, kind of very similar to how you're seeing people walk around in the streets today. And the reason we had to put on this protective clothing is because we had to siphon through this stuff. And of course, a lot of it is toxic. So we were siphoning through, and we had to make a decision into the different bins, which could be recycled, which couldn't be recycled, which was possibly biodynamic waste, kind of what food waste for compost. So after about 20 minutes of literally going through this process of kind of gathering stuff, I began to feel physically and toxically sick, like the morning after your 18th birthday, where you've drunk a amount of alcohol that you've never had before. And it just took me into the most awful, horrible feeling. Now, thankfully, because I'd had some training about how to transmute and shift energies and also draw abundant energy from Gaia, I said to the guys, I can't do this anymore. I laid on the earth and I began to release what felt to me like the toxic energy within me. And the camera was over me and I was doing this and it was, you know, it was all very real to me. And as I released this energy and I started to feel better, I realized I was releasing this into the earth, number one. And then what I do is I release the energy and then draw from the earth and ask the earth to replenish me. So I'm kind of, if you like, recycling. That's what I thought. So I'm going through this process, beginning to feel better, draw in and ask the earth to refuel me, to re-energize me, to cleanse me. And as I did that, I heard these words: how you are feeling now is what you are doing to me. I need your help to go out and tell the world that if we carry on like this, then I am sick and I'm going to get sicker and sicker. And that was my epiphany moment. It was like a bolt of lightning. I mean, I literally wept in this particular moment. And after that, it made so much sense to me. I was used to listening to nature, but this was like a much bigger voice. And I made a commitment to camera that I'd go away and I would commit all of my life's work and all of my personal life in living as sustainably and as connected with nature as possible, and inspiring and informing and educating others about the damage that we were doing to our planet. And that was in 2006, 2007, the TV show aired. In 2008, I launched National Geographic Green, the world's biggest ethical lifestyle magazine that had ever happened. And in 2009, we took that to The Guardian. And we've been with The Guardian for 10 years. And so all we've ever done is tried to educate people about consuming in a way that is harmonious to themselves, to nature, and a much cleaner, healthier way of doing that. So I'm sharing that because my purpose was given to me by what I perceived to be Gaia. So I went away and I did that, and actually been able to create extraordinary things along the way. And Katie and I met during that process. And what we're going to do now is, just as a way of introducing the storyline, if you like, to this panel, is I'm going to now just very quickly ask each of our panel to introduce themselves to you, to share a little bit about what they do and why they do it, which is equally as important to what they do. So I'm seeing everybody in the screen in front of me, so I'm literally going to start and go around clockwise. So Tabitha, it's okay, we'll start with you. I met Tabitha through this journey. Tabitha is the most extraordinary person in the way that she runs her business, because she listens to animals and nature and allows them to inform her about the way that she operates as a pioneering, game-changing CEO. So Tabitha, would you please say hello, tell us what you do and why you do it? Are you muted? You're muted.
Oh my goodness. Wow, thank you. I'm not sure I'm worthy of all of that praise, but thank you all the same. I do hair. I've done hair for 20 years. I realize that I love my industry. I've loved everything about it creatively, but I realized early on that it was just one of the most toxic industries that there could be, really. It's, you know, right up there. It's something, it connects with something that everybody does on a daily basis, something as simple as washing their hair. But the process of that is actually hideously polluting to the planet, to us, and to nature. I felt I had my own light bulb moment about 20 years ago and decided that I should become an organic hairdresser and put my sort of sign outside to the world and started to shift the way I was thinking, because my personal passion had always been for nature, for animals. I just couldn't work in that way anymore, in a way that was just so destructive, and I just couldn't be part of an industry that was so polluting, so ugly and horrible. So I decided that I would go on a mission to change that, and I realized early on that it was possible. The closer I got to nature in terms of materials, or that I was working with hair, the better the results I got. No surprise there. So then I just really went on a journey of how I could educate more and more people to just recognize what they were doing in these really simple everyday processes. So in short now, because I know we haven't got lots of time, I would say that my goal now has just become really to use my business to connect back to nature. I have to stay informed, so I use nature in a very strong way. As Jarvis said, I actually work with horses. I keep them on an organic farm. They live very naturally, and I use them as my way of sort of connecting to a deeper sense of nature. That's my where I find my truth, where I find my guide, where I connect with Gaia. This just really makes me, helps me stay sort of passionate and focused on what I want to do, which is really use everyday items like hair care to really sort of bring people's focus back to nature, and just to understand that, you know, we are in this circular process so deeply connected with nature that actually, unless we recognize what is coming to us, where it's come from, what happens next when it leaves us, whether that's packaging, ingredients, you know, literal function, liquids, as we're washing shampoo down our wash basins after we've washed our hair, you know, all of these things are just so real. And it's just a really effective way of challenging everyday people to just stop and think about what they're doing. So I love to be in front of an audience of women that really don't think about that at all, men and women, where I can just really bring them back to that core that may actually be the thing that changes everything for them, because it is part of their everyday life. So yeah, thank you. That's me.
Thank you, Tabitha. Brilliant. I really appreciate it. Stephanie, you're next in my picture screen, so I'm going to come to you next. So Stephanie, we're quite new friends. We've just recently started working together. But what I'm mostly inspired about with Stephanie is that, you know, when we first started working together in business, we immediately went into having that spiritual conversation, and it was she shared with me that, you know, you'd just kind of been reignited with your kind of spiritual connection, and I'm hoping that, you know, by us working together, it may have been a slight inspiration for that moment to have happened. But what is awesome about Stephanie is she's worked for a very large alcohol brewery company, and has decided that actually she wants to change the way we do, you know, drink, and the way the supply chains are, and the way the processing is with alcohol, because we all love a drink. I mean, nobody's going to perhaps deny that, but Stephanie has taken a much more conscious approach to it. So Stephanie, I hand over to you. Tell us a bit about, you know, your company and what you do and why you're doing it, please.
Thank you so much, Jarvis. And it's amazing to meet everyone on the panel, and thank you to everyone who's listening. I second what Jarvis said. I have very recently reawakened. I think I was born with a very sensitive system, and due to life and global corporations and pendulums that swing, I found myself dormant. And it's only through having pursued a personal vision and mission, and in collaboration with my business partner, Tim, that I have been reawakened, and I'm reawakening and bringing the awareness back into my business, but ultimately into myself. And I think that's starting to steer. It's almost like the business was already telling me what I was here to do, and I hadn't quite understood that was the calling. But we created Avallen with a mission to be the world's most planet positive spirits brand. My business partner and I, Tim, have been in the industry for a very long time, and we came to understand that actually people hadn't quite understood that what you drink the same way what you eat can have huge consequences on the environment. And that all starts with the sourcing of a raw material. I was raised in France, in wineland, and it's very much about the terroir and the agriculture. Yet in the world of spirits, we kind of forget that, and we don't really realize what we're drinking. And actually we've lost the biodiversity in the back bar. We're drinking a lot of monocrops, a lot of grain, things where there's pesticide use and other damaging things to Gaia, but also a focus from large corporations that are kind of changing the messaging, and that it's all about packaging and zero plastic and recyclability, and just steering consumers away from what really truly does matter, which is what we put into the earth, what we seed and what we reap. And so Avallen is made from nothing but apples, water and time, apple being that original fruit of sin. And yeah, it's been really amazing. We have a bigger, broader mission to save wild bees, the fuzzy little winged warriors that are vital to our survival, and pollinators of all delicious things. And so yeah, I think I am only now becoming aware of why I'm doing what I'm doing, but we're doing it to bring around change in a way that's still enjoyable. We all want to have a lovely gin tonic. We all want to have a lovely glass of wine. And I think it's just bringing that awareness and mindfulness into the glass can have some very positive consequences.
Wonderful. Thank you. Yeah. Can you hear me? Yeah, good. I can't see myself now. I've completely disappeared. Stephanie, thank you ever so much. That was wonderful. So Monica, you're next. Now, Monica, what's extraordinary about Monica is she works in a digital kind of organization, and through the pandemic, we've realized that this nonsense about people traveling here, there, and everywhere in order to have business meetings has been literally pulled away from businesses, right? And so what we've seen is a massive decline in travel, a massive decline in air pollution, and a huge positive kind of scenario that we've been forced into that has lessened our impact on our beautiful planet, Gaia. And Monica works for this great organization that actually offers solutions for businesses so that their employees can work from home in a streamless way, in exactly the same way as they would be working in the office. So Monica, over to you. I just want to say that Monica and I also, when we met, it was very much about, kind of work. And then we've committed to each other, and we have a weekly call because we do a lot of work together. We've committed to each other that the first part of our conversation will always be about the spiritual, the indigenous, and the wisdom before we talk about business. Right, Monica?
Correct. Hi, everyone. As Jarvis says, I work for Citrix, and we empower businesses to offer remote work experiences. And that's just one of our products. But for me, how I landed here was, this has been a lifelong journey. It's been happening, or it's been going on for many, many years. And I've always felt extremely connected to nature. I was brought up with a lot of natural wisdom from my grandparents and my grandmothers and my family. And through this evolution of just staying connected to nature, always rooting for nature, and always just having those conversations in the workplace, we started a kind of a line where we began to start talking about sustainability, and really using sustainability as one of those value props that our companies has to help the public really empower themselves to work remotely and very streamlessly, specifically around the COVID pandemic. In addition to being the sustainability marketing lead at Citrix, I'm also one of the architects to the mindfulness program that we have at Citrix. So I've been practicing yoga for many years and teaching mindfulness for many years. So we've also been able to really just incorporate all these things into a corporate workplace, which is really beautiful to see that evolution in the business world. So that's my story. Thank you for having me today.
Thank you ever so much, Monica. I really appreciate it. Hey, Joe, Joe Wood is next, and for some reason we can't see you. There you go. There you are.
Yes, I'm here.
Hi, Joe. Hi, Joe. So many of you will recognize Joe from her, crazy Rolling Stones days and Strictly Come Dancing. And Joe and I are super cool mates. we've been hanging out and we've been on this journey, you know, right from the beginning. In fact, I think you came to our very first awards that we did, didn't you? And she's been a judge and a supporter. But Jo is an absolute pioneer in wacky, pioneering, organic lifestyle, and we just love you, Jo. So, you know, probably a lot of people know about you, but what I'd love for you to share very quickly is why you still keep on this conscious evolutionary journey that you're on. You've just gone off grid, which is amazing. So just tell us a bit about, you know, why you're doing what you're doing and what you hope to achieve with it.
Yeah, well, ever since the early 90s, when I changed my life to an organic life amid the rock and roll, it all made sense to me what the terrible things we were doing to this planet, you know, with genetically modified food and chemicals and processed food, and by doing all that, we were messing up the rivers, messing up the seas. And I mean, even now, I do sit and worry and think, how are we going to change it? And I think the way to change it is everybody must do something. I mean, I want to do as much as I can and all the time. This planet is our home for all of us, and we have to look after it. We're here on this beautiful planet that gives us everything we need and more, and we treat it like a rubbish dump, and it breaks my heart. So I think everything that I do, hopefully I can be an inspiration to people, because I can live a great life off grid and enjoy the beautiful countryside. Everybody must be able to grow a few vegetables in their little gardens on their windowsills. It all matters, and the more we use our money to change, the more change we'll have. Because if we stop buying things that pollute the earth and pollute our bodies, then they won't make them anymore, because there won't be any need for them. So I just want to do as much as I can all the time. I'm thinking all the time, what can I do? What can I do? Mustn't do this. You know, I just want that change. I want everybody to be as happy as me and love the planet like I do, and nature. That's it.
Jo, thank you. Bless you. I will tell everybody as well that Jo has recently done a podcast about aliens, and she's seen aliens. Yeah. She's had Robbie Williams and some really famous people on her podcast that have all seen aliens as well. So whether I know aliens is an awful word, it sounds horrible, but beings that perhaps are not necessarily humans that we've, you know, come into contact with.
And of course they're out there, because the universe is so huge. And the possibilities are endless, so they're endless possibilities.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you, Jo. Appreciate it. I mean, it's a beautiful thing that you've said there, because I remember years ago when I was training with my teacher, and she said to me that, you know, everything that you know is useless because you already know it. So if you can't create a part in your brain that is possibility consciousness, then you've got no hope of developing. So I'm always open to the unknown and the things that I don't know, because that's where perhaps the magic is. So thanks for reminding us of that, Jo. Appreciate that.
No, I agree. I think we all have to have open minds. Really must do.
Yeah. Thank you. So thank you, Jo. I'm going to move on to Rachel, because we're getting through this brilliantly. Thank you all for being so succinct. So Rachel runs an amazing organization, which she can share with you in a moment. But Rachel and I are quite newbies. We literally met on Zoom, didn't we? We haven't met physically. And again, it was one of those amazing moments where we were chatting, and then we just suddenly picked up each other's frequencies, each other's vibration, and we just went straight into the spirit conversation. Like, you know, everything else we do on the surface that's outside of us, we just do because that's what we do. We're kind of living as human doers rather than beers. But we immediately connected in the being zone. And so Rachel, please share, you know, who you are and what you're up to and why you are being and working in the way that you are, please.
Oh, thank you so much, Jarvis, and thanks for having me. And really, really nice to meet everybody. So I run a media channel called PlanetSHINE.com. I spent about 15 years working in feature films and music videos, had a really bad experience and was ripped off basically and lost all my money, came back from London to rural Lancashire and basically turned into a country bumpkin, got a puppy and a horse, and actually I've always been passionate about animal rights, but because of that bad experience, it totally reconnected me with nature. And it struck me that I'd moved to this beautiful village in Lancashire and people were saying hello to me on the street. And after living in London for 10 years, I was like, who are you talking to? But it was just such an empowering experience. And basically I started questioning what I was doing with my work and realized I still loved making films, but also realized I needed to use the power of filmmaking to share messages, to engage the masses, basically, to live better lives. So we founded PlanetSHINE. My whole passion, as I've said, is animal rights, but I learnt that to really improve the planet for animals, we have to create an equitable society for everyone, for all people, all species, and for the planet. So PlanetSHINE sits at the intersection of animal rights, human rights, and environmentalism. And we make films, we publish those films, we publish a lot of written content. We also work with brands. So we basically try and get under the skin of brands to influence them to be more purpose driven and to use their, the power of their audience to share those messages and to change their supply chains and so on and so forth. But ultimately, through the channel, we try and infiltrate the minds of the masses. And we try and do that by avoiding words like sustainability sometimes and words like vegan and animal rights, because quite often those sorts of words can alienate the masses of people that we want to get to. But essentially, we're trying to entertain people and then plant the seed of ethical living, because I think, as everybody on here knows, once you start that journey, you start looking at all aspects of your life and you really start to align with nature. And basically you can't be happier until you get to that point. It's just, yeah, it's wonderful. So I'm very blessed.
Thanks, Rachel. Thank you. That's brilliant. Now, have we been through everybody? Have we got everybody done? Adam. Oh man. So Adam, you know what? So I couldn't see the full screen. So I just want to share something before I introduce Adam, because he's completely outnumbered, as you can see, by the feminine energy to the masculine energy. And he was the only guy that I brought to the party, right? Now, I just want to share this briefly before I introduce Adam, is that through the spiritual kind of teachings and the way that we work collectively with a group of people that I'm involved in, which includes lords and scientists and business owners, and it's essentially a group of unity. And we've done quite a lot of what is described as constellation work. It's blind work where you kind of have people that kind of act as particular roles. Many of you, I'm sure, will have heard of constellation work. And in the few significant times we've done it, when we've asked, kind of what is it that how are we going to get through this time that we're in and actually evolve as beings, right? How are we going to become enlightened, perhaps, or live in this kind of Aquarian age that everybody's kind of talking about, this transitional period from the Piscean astrological age into this kind of Aquarian age? And every time that we've done this, it always comes up, it is completely clear and absolutely on point, that the only way we will evolve into this new frontier, this new paradigm, is through the feminine. So, I am a big, massive supporter as a man to try and support the feminine as much as I possibly can, right? Now, that doesn't mean just women. That means the feminine principles, those principles that we're going to actually ask all the panel in a minute, perhaps what feminine principles mean to them. But it is very clear to me that the only way we're going to be able to evolve as a species is through the feminine, because we've just done the masculine, the religion, the politics, the governments, the man-made laws, all of that. Look at the mess it's got us into. So The reason I'm going to invite Adam now into this is because clearly he's a guy, we can all see that, but his energy and the way we connected, which was in love and in union and in just honesty and transparency and co-creativeness, had much more feminine quality to our relationship than a masculine quality. So Adam, I salute you, and I invite you to be part of the girls in your maleness, because that's exactly how I feel you are. So thank you for holding the fort for the feminine in the masculine.
I mean, Jarvis, you're a magical person. How you can make spending 3 weeks in a rubbish dump sound sexy is beyond me. It's insane. No, thank you for that. It's very sweet of you. How did I get here? I have no idea. Like, literally no idea. 12 years ago, as you were talking, I was thinking, what was I doing 12 years ago? 12 years ago, the only thing I cared about was football and women, in that order, probably. And, you know, I was just, you know, completely driven by my testosterone and being a child. And so I guess what happened was I matured, you know, and I think not enough people give enough time to understand maturity, you know. So that happened to me, I guess. You know, the only thing I really wanted to do, my background generally is in building businesses and technology. I've gone through the traditional routes of trying to make money, finance, technology, economics, those kind of areas. And then, you know, with every success I had, small or large, I just, it became less enjoyable, you know, for want of a better word, less meaningful. It found like there was less purpose in what I was doing. So me and my best friend and lover, he's the best guy in the world, we set up this kind of passion project on the side to try and bring consumers into the conversation around building sustainability strategies. You know, people were talking about sustainability strategies, but the consumers were not really in the conversation in a meaningful way anyway. So we kind of set up this rate and review platform for products, but purely around sustainability and health. Think of it like Trustpilot or TripAdvisor, but for sustainability of products. And what it brings to the table is kind of traditional free market principles. You know, the capitalist system that we do currently reside in, it understands and captures those things and allows consumers to have their say and vote with their wallets and so on. So kind of that's where we're at now. I mean, for me, it's really, really important that if you care about the future of our planet, about sustainability, that you are actively involved. And actively involved doesn't mean just signing a petition or joining a group or campaigning. It means use the energy that you have a finite amount of it, use it, direct it towards something meaningful and purposeful. You know, don't spend all your life on Instagram scrolling that thumb. Every time I see that thumb, it makes me wince. You know, don't spend all your life on Netflix. Read some books, jump into understanding things and use your energy in an efficient way. That would be my number one bit of advice for the 149 participants right now.
Thanks, Adam. We're gonna go into some deeper dive stuff in a minute. Everybody that's watching, because I know you're all conscious beings, else you wouldn't be here. But the last and but by no means least, and thank you, Adam, appreciate it, is Katie sitting here to my left. She's on my left. She might be on your right. So Katie and I are partners, business, business partners, and married in a spiritual sense. So over to you, Katie.
You're feminine.
My feminine, yeah, the better half.
I think I just like to start by saying what an amazing bunch of people we've got, all participating in this, because all the comments we are reading them, and you're all just amazing. You're just full of positivity, and it's so important, and it's exactly what we need. So thank you. It's lovely to have you here. In terms of my journey, I think I've heard a lot of things that are really resonating and that sound similar. So Tabitha said that she was working in a toxic industry, and I feel very similar in the sense that I was working in a media industry that I felt was toxic. It was controlled by money, it was controlled by huge multinationals, it was controlled by people with privilege, and all the narrative that they put out as news and that people believed was objective and that was fact was completely tainted and polluted by an agenda that didn't serve the people who were reading that news. So I wanted to change that, and I wanted to bring, I don't know if we'd call them feminine, I certainly at the time didn't think of them as feminine principles of perhaps more openness and compassion and things like that, but I did want to change that. It seemed grossly unfair that people were being fed these stories and being controlled by fear, really. That's what it felt like. So I wanted to do something different. And when I met Jarvis, it was, I think he's kind of touched on this already, but it was an all-in partnership. I was working for a company that I thought was okay. It was the best that existed, I felt at the time, but it still wasn't quite right. It still didn't tick all the boxes for me. It didn't cover the environmental issues that I felt people needed to know about. It didn't cover the huge inequalities and enormous issues around sustainability that were the major issues of life today. Like nobody was talking about them. So Jarvis and I together created My Green Pod as a platform to share these and to inform and to inspire and to not keep it negative and to not try and make people experience fear, but to make them experience hope and to see other options and to hopefully get some inspiration. So that's where we are, I think, so as succinct as possible. I know that we're going to move on now.
Right, brilliant. Thank you, Katie. Thank you, everybody. So, okay, so we've done the human bit. We've done the introductions, okay? So we're going to change gear, collectively change gear. So everybody that's listening, please feel free to join in if you like, and if you don't, that's absolutely fine. But I'm going to ask all of our panelists to just connect your feet to the ground, put anything down in your hands, just relax. I'm going to ask you to, for a moment, close your eyes and focus on your breath. And if the mind wanders, just take the mind back to the breath and just connect with the breath. So all you're thinking about is breathing in and breathing out. And on each breath, you can deepen the length of the in-breath and extend the out-breath. And again, if the mind wanders, just bring it back to the breath. So you're just simply being in this moment with you and your breath. And as you are in this quieter place of stillness, keeping the eyes closed, I want you to imagine that you are breathing your heart energy, physical heart even, if you want, up to your head. So as you breathe in, you're drawing the heart up to the head. And as that happens, you're expanding. So your head is now becoming above the heart. Your heart is becoming where your head was. And your mind and your head now sits above your physical head, opening up an opportunity to connect with the information and the intelligence of the universe. And take another deep breath in and just invite that heart consciousness to expand. And in many ways, you're becoming disconnected from your own physical head, but engaging in the bigger part of yourself where your mind connects with the universal mind. And keep breathing and just reconnecting and saying hello and inviting the intelligence and the wisdom of Source into this moment. Feel your feet on the ground, your heart as your head simply just like a balloon floating above heart. And when you're ready, take a deep breath in and just come back into the room, into your own time, into the Zoom, should I say, in your own time. So I'm going to ask you some questions now, but the questions are being asked to your unified self, the connected self. So before we do that, I just want to share something with you, which is another way of looking at sustainability. We're all conscious, sustainable beings in the way that we live and in the way that we operate in our businesses. I want to pose a question to you. What if Gaia and nature and the intelligence of the physical realm that we live in created a situation for us to collectively evolve? What if 7.8 billion souls incarnated into this world at this time to collectively be part of a much bigger universal evolution? What if the climate crisis is asking us to remember our connection with each other and with nature? And what if nature is way more intelligent than we are? And if we can allow it to do its thing, we might evolve graciously and gracefully through this process. So I'm not going to ask you all to answer those questions. They were just what ifs. But from that space, I'd like to ask you all, and just maybe one or two words. So all on mute, and but one or two words, and I will ask you each individually to go first. One or two words about how you would describe the feminine principles. What are feminine principles to you? And we'll start with Tabitha. Just one or two words, please.
I would say heart, nurture, a deep love.
Adam?
Empathy, for sure, empathy. Yeah, and mothering.
Joe?
I'd say love. I'd also say mothering, because I just keep thinking of the word Mother Earth.
Stephanie?
Forgiveness. Going in loop, forgiveness.
Rachel?
I'd say joy, compassion, and leadership.
Monica?
Creation, unconditional love, and compassion.
I'd say compassion, empathy, and strength.
Okay. The next question is, and it's really a simple question that perhaps could only require a yes or a no answer. And that's okay if it's a no, and it's okay if it's a yes. But do you, my esteemed friends who I love, feel that you are truly living your purpose? So I'll go the other way around. We'll go to Monica first.
Yes, I do.
Amazing. Stephanie?
on my journey to do so. Yes, on the right path.
Rachel?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
Adam?
I think it's a dynamic question. I don't think there's a static answer. So right this moment, I would say yes, but some moments definitely not.
Of course, it can evolve. But yes, you feel as if you are in this moment. Amazing. Tabitha?
Yes. Yeah, definitely.
Okay, amazing. So thank you for that. I think that just said,
Yes.
Katie, I'm sorry. Okay, and Katie. So it's really
Yes.
I forgot you were there. I'm sorry.
Never forget the feminine.
I know, it's true. So true.
At your peril.
So here's the thing, right? Here's the thing. So when I started up My Green Pod, 12 years ago, I knew that there wasn't really a receptivity to the spiritual stuff we wanted to talk about. People just weren't ready to hear it. So I decided, and the team decided that we'd use the climate crisis as a way in, right? What I've learned along the way is that nearly everybody that's working in the ethical, sustainable, conscious, citizen shoppers arena is they're all doing business with heart. And they're all trying to live from heart to the best of their ability, which is extraordinary. So my big thing now, and the thing I'm really trying to drive now is that if the science is correct and we have 10 to 12 years to radically transform the way that we live on the earth, the way that we use its resources, the way that we abuse her and take from her without giving back, if the science is correct, then is it possible that every single human being on this planet has a gift, something that they are amazing at, their absolute star quality, the thing that makes them hum and smile inside? Is it possible that each individual together can use that skill for the next 10 years to help mitigate or restore the issues around our planet and climate crisis, and for that to become our purpose, right? Even if it's just for the next 10 years. So that's my big agenda right now, is to try and remind people, help them to find what they're good at, how to use that skill to mitigate the climate crisis, and then for that to become their purpose. Could you imagine the type of world we'd live in where everybody was living what they loved the most? And that skill that they had a purpose that was actually dealing with the biggest opportunity for humanity to evolve with Gaia, because we know Gaia is going to kind of do her thing, because she always does. Are we going to be able to sustain life through the process? So what I'd like to ask you all is that, because you're already doing that, you've already even said yes, you are. So in praise to you all. So what I'd like to ask you all is that how do you feel that we can help others to find that purpose within themselves, which is the thing that they're good at, using it towards helping with the climate crisis? How can we help others to find that within themselves? And I'm going to open this up really to the floor. So I think the best thing to do is if you put your hand up and perhaps come back with just a bit of inspiration from the way that you're doing it. I mean, I understand what you guys are doing, because you're making a conscious product. And if people are using or experiencing or digesting or washing their hair with a conscious product, then my shamanic training tells me that the very energy that's gone into that process is washing over, is going inside, is communicating with these people with the objective of how it was made. So that for me is transforming and shifting the consciousness within another, right? But do you all feel that as well? Because that's how I feel what we're doing with My Green Pod. So who wants to just kind of maybe come back with a few words on that? Okay, Rachel, cool, thank you.
Well, first and foremost, I think I think everybody knows we're in the midst of a revolution, aren't we? Whether it's a lifestyle revolution, a sustainability revolution, and ultimately there is so much opportunity. And I'm a huge fan of the original principles of the triple bottom line, but bring it so people, planet and profit. So bringing that down to grassroots level and saying to, you know, letting people, you know, giving people belief that it's okay to be ambitious. It's okay to want security, and it's okay to want to make money in your life, as long as you do it ethically and as long as you put as much effort into helping other species and the planet, you know. But ultimately, it's got to start with what you love, doesn't it? Everything. And I truly believe that being successful with your career, in a business or whatever, it starts with what you love. And if you can figure that out, then you can kind of open up a whole world of opportunities. And then the other thing for me in particular is connecting with nature. Once you kind of start thinking about what do I really love, if you do it in a place of nature and you really open your heart, it's bizarre that when, you know, the answers and the information that starts to present itself, I mean, mind-blowing. You know, I've had just some crazy the closer I've got to nature, the more kind of crazy experiences I've had over the last few years, which have been really soulful and really heartwarming, you know.
Yeah, I do know. Thank you. Adam, I'll come to you in a sec. I just want to come back to a point there quickly. When you said people, planet, purpose, and profit, right? So we did a survey at our last awards. Just for those of you that don't know, we won the UK's leading sustainability awards. It's in its 10th year this year, and we honour individuals, teams for the successes that they've made in the sustainability movement. And we did a survey at the last one where we asked people, in what order would you put people, purpose, planet, and profit? And I can promise you, every single time, profit came last, right? So we know that profit is completely dysfunctional. We know that, having gone through this pandemic, we can't even economically survive on just buying essential products. So clearly the system is completely messed up and wrong and doesn't work. It doesn't serve us. So I've redefined the word profit to the other spelling of profit. So people, planet, purpose, and profit as the prophet, as the, you know, as the wise person that predicts, you know, perhaps how we should really be living. So I want to kind of use that for the moment, just for us to think that we are actually all prophets. If we are connecting with nature and listening to nature and working in partnership with nature, and in fact, if you really look at it, dancing with nature, which is actually simply a physical manifestation of spirit. That's what I believe, which is why I've said is sustainability, spirituality. Because if you're living it and you're willing to dance with it, then actually you're dancing with spirit. We're always dancing with spirit anyway. I mean, if you really go deep, then there is no good or bad, it just is. And true enlightenment is when you accept everything as is, and then, you know, nothing shakes you. You're always solid in the middle. So many sadhus and gurus have got to that position over the time, and we've lost our way a little bit, but we're all kind of coming back to that. So I invite us all to live with the other prophet, the prophet that is wisdom. And if we make profit, F-I-T, in our businesses, let's put that profit back into the earth. So, you know, we can all plant a tree when we buy something. We can all pay for a tree to be planted when we buy something. You know, very simple things. But a very wise friend of mine, he said that we need to be in the age of the time of and the age of restoration. And it needs to be about, you know, possibly the next 100 years for the planet to rewild itself and regenerate itself so that we can all thrive. And we all need to be a part of that. So as we take, we simply give back. Adam, sorry for that rant. You were going to say something, my man. Please do.
I think we have a crisis of role models in society today. I don't necessarily think it's just the people and the PR spin on everything, but social media and the way that celebrities are packaged these days, it makes it really difficult for young people to really find role models in a meaningful way. So I don't have the answer to this, but we need to find a way of packaging what I'm about to say and replace what was role models with something. Maybe it's private businesses, maybe it's something like this, what we're doing now. But I think in large, we need to package up and show people how they can do kind of three things. One is, first and foremost, look inwards. right? So fix yourself. So many people right now suffering with anxiety and depression, and the environments that we've created right now, they're not that suitable for the evolved human, right? So we need to look inwards and fix ourselves and focus on ourselves and make ourselves happy and find meaning and so on, before we can even discuss big global complex systemic problems like climate change. So incentivize individuals to look inwards and fix themselves first before they start trying to solve other problems. Second of all is to upskill, right? We need to incentivize people. So yes, some people have, qualities, innate qualities, and they need to bring them to the forefront. But also, if you're going to talk about climate change and the climate crisis, you need to have a good understanding of economics, free market economics, of evolutionary science, of systems theory, of game theory, of psychology. There's so many things to have a well-rounded opinion and be able to contribute that you need to learn first. So this idea of upskilling and reading and chucking yourself and using that energy I spoke of before, directing it not necessarily straight towards solving the climate crisis. If you really deeply care, you really want to contribute, first, there's a grounding period you need to have, which is to learn everything you can that kind of flirts with this area. And then we can move towards that. And then the final thing would be focus. So once you feel like you're learning at a good enough rate and you can contribute, then it's about focusing all of whatever you've learned and the specific thing that you know, and spending a lot of time and energy on that one thing, because there's plenty of people out there doing plenty of things. So I would say, yeah, those three things, looking inwards, upskilling and focus are going to be super key. And the last thing I would say is kind of the purpose thing here is if you can, everyone's different. Everyone has different abilities, capabilities, levels of intelligence, and so on, right? But if you can go out and you can find the biggest burden that you can bear, the biggest one, find the biggest burden and bear it, right? Then you're going to be on the right path to helping to solve some of the great issues of our time.
Adam, that was amazing. God, I'd need to hang out with you more often. Thank you. But you picked up a really poignant thing there. And, when I was speaking to Peter and Jim earlier, there's a potential for this to reach tens of thousands of people, this webinar. So I just want to ask you quickly, because I want to pull up on that, is that I've also noticed that not many people have a daily practice where they are going within. I personally do a kriya 99 times out of 100 every morning, right? There are some mornings it's just completely impossible. And that's a bit of breathing, it's a bit of yoga, it's a bit of meditation, but it's essentially an ancient tool in order to learn from within and listen to the inner being, right? How many of you have a daily practice? And can we very quickly go round and just ask you what your daily practice is? But I'm looking at the time, we've probably got about another 19, 20 minutes in order for us to go perhaps to questions. But there's a few more things I want to get through. So by show of hands, who has a daily practice? Very cool. So can we go around and can you just share quickly what it is? Tabitha, would you mind going first?
Being outside in nature. As I said, I tend to do that with my horses or dog, but just using animals, be with animals, be outside in nature. I just want to add one small thing to what was being said before, if I may.
Please.
But just but really I think in terms of like everybody, every individual, how to inspire people to do their thing, to kind of be their whole self. I think, unplug. First of all, unplug from the digital world. We have this in the connecting with everything, we lose so much of ourselves. I think we have to unplug and to find who you really are, to find what you can bring to the world. I said earlier, I do have, but that's not my thing. What my thing is people. I love people. I love this planet. I love nature. I love every being on it. And I happen to do hair. So I bring all of me into my work. And that's what makes the passion. That's what makes me be living my true purpose. And I would encourage everyone to just get outside, be with nature, lie down on the ground, feel the energy of a tree, do something where you really deeply connect with the true sort of energy and life force that is Mother Nature, if you do that, you will find who you are and where you're supposed to be.
Yeah, appreciate that, Tabitha. I think the wonder of this is that everybody has an entry point to reconnect with their, their inner selves and their, the higher consciousness. And some is through nature, some is through dance, some is through breath. There's so many different sacred practices. But I will say, and this is a complete admiration for my wife sitting next to me. She doesn't do any practice because partly she doesn't have any time. Like, we've got a 4-year-old and she's constantly working, and when I'm not working, we're just constantly swapping parenthood and work. And I can honestly say, genuinely, she is always fully present and fully conscious. And so she doesn't have a practice because she just is. So huge respect to you, because I have to work at mine, and I really, really appreciate your mirroring back to me how unconscious I am unless I do my practice.
No, the practice is different to everybody, isn't it? I mean, spending time with our daughter is a form of practice to me. She's my connection to the unit, the whatever you want to call it. I don't know, to source, to the life force of the everything around us. She's that, and playing with her, whether it's in, I don't need to be outside with her. I don't have to be out anywhere. But I suppose that's part of a practice, even though it's not necessarily what you might normally define as.
I agree. And that's the magic. If you can be in your dharma, or whatever the term is, constantly connected to everything at all times, then you've cracked it. Why are you still here? You should have enlightened and gone off to.
You do take the mic. You do take the mic.
Hey, Adam, do you mind going next? Just tell us what your practice is briefly, and what you do yourself.
Mine's super simple, and the best thing when I started doing it was the best thing I've ever done, and I've done it every day since. I have just a very short list. It's growing. Of people that I really, really care about and really, really love. And every morning, whilst I'm on the toilet, I must say, I look through this list and I go, remind myself, who are the people I care about? What are the things I care about? And then I put it away. And it sets up your day so beautifully. Every day you that third point I was talking about with the focus, it just laser focus back to what's important. I don't actually meditate, or I don't do much spiritual things. I'm getting there, I'm new to spirituality in kind of a more meaningful way. So, but a list of people that you love and care about, and a list of things that you care about.
Love it, Joe.
Well, I love to meditate. It's one of the I don't get to do it every single morning, but most mornings. And I just find the breathing and the meditation, because I learned from Sadhguru, and he always says, "Are you meditating, Joe?" And he's right. I feel so much better when I meditate, so I try and do that every morning.
Yeah, I'd forgotten we had that in common.
Yeah.
So, Joe, I'm sorry I spoke over you. Then please say that last bit again. Sorry.
It sets my day up when I do a good meditation. Yeah.
Amazing. I just said I've forgotten we had that in common, because the Kriya that I practice came from Sadhguru as well, and I've been doing it for I can't remember how long, like 20 years or something now. So.
Oh my God, that's great.
Rachel, we're going to come to.
I spend lots of time with my dog every day. My dog is my whole world. He's like my soulmate, and I do angel work every single day.
Do you angel work? Ah, nice. What, inviting them in and
talking to them? I drive them nuts. I'm always asking for favors.
Yeah, I'm exactly the same. Every morning I ask my team to help me with the work that I need, to help me bring in the money, so it's great, because you don't have a physical team annoying you all day. You just got these kind of angelic beings kind of helping you out. It's fantastic.
We're just annoying them.
Yeah, and they kind of they like being included, as far as I can see. It's like
I'm literally like, I'm really sorry, it's me again. I'm asking for something else, but I'm going to use it in really good ways. So.
Yeah. And I don't know about this, but I also do it with my green pod. I always, every morning, invite the wisdom and the intelligence and the beingness of our business, and I ask it to show me the way. And it always, every single day, it comes to me and holds out its kind of arms, like saying, you know, will you dance? Like a kind of, will you waltz with me? And it makes me laugh every single morning, because it's exactly how the business presents itself to me. And I just ask it to show me the way. So anyway, sorry, Stephanie, what's your practice?
Mine's a mix, Jarvis. It's whatever comes to me. It can be some stretching, some yoga, some running. But ultimately for me, it's about letting my mind run freely. And when that happens, I feel that I do absolutely connect to the universe. And today specifically, I went for a run and my mum was cycling next to me, and something came to me quite strongly. And that thing was, think about what you have to give versus what you can get and take. I was thinking about a friend who's started a new job in a corporation, and he was struggling about it not being what he wanted it to be. And my advice to him was, think about what you have to give. And applying that today to myself has already shifted kind of a lot of the dynamics of my work. So anything that lets my mind run free and connect works.
Such a wise bunch you are. I love it. I love it. I love hanging out with you guys. Can we do this more often? Monica, what's your daily practice? Or
So one of the things that I do daily is ground myself. So I walk barefooted all day long. It's in the yard, in the garden. Another thing that I do is always ask to be guided as soon as I wake up in the morning. So I ask my higher self or the universe or source to just guide me and step in and allow me to do, or to be the vessel that I need to be. And then my yoga practice, I have that maybe not every day, but I do practice it quite frequently.
Amazing. I mean, it's such a just a way to reconnect, isn't it? It
is. I think the body, for me, it's that just connecting so deeply with your body to be in awe of this physical entity that we're all in. And it's this universe, is a universe of its own. And then you can, from that perspective, expand it out into seeing the micro universes that all exist here in this space.
That's amazing. Thank you. Thank you. So look, we're kind of winding up. So we've got 9 minutes before we perhaps go, you know, if anyone has any questions. If not, then, you know, maybe Peter or Jim might want to step forward and interact a bit. But so this whole kind of panel discussion came about to really answer or investigate the question: is sustainability spirituality? And I'm beginning to feel that you know, people have been confused with the word sustainability, because, you know, it means so many different things actually. And if we were just simply living in harmony, you know, with each other and with the planet and with nature, and caring about, you know, for example, planting a fruit tree today so it bears fruit for our future generations, just as an analogy, as a visual, you know, then of course everything is spiritual. Everything is spirituality. And I love some of the comments. There's a comment here that just this lovely person has just said, being alive and knowing it is sufficient practice. I mean, that is, you know, whoever that is that's walking the earth with that level of wisdom, then please step forward and show others, because that is truly, I mean, wow, that is truly magical. And you know, if we can all be that, then wow, we're gonna really get through this. So my last question to you is just, you know, if maybe just in a few words we can go around the group, is, you know, has this process in terms of, you know, looking at our sustainable way of living, our sustainable business practices, has that opened doors up for you in terms of to be more spiritual? And are there more ways now that you feel that you might be able to kind of use that business model or that way of being to inspire others about what I believe is going to be the next biggest movement on the planet for humanity, is them reconnecting with their spiritual bodies? I understand this to be a physical body, a mental body, an emotional body, which most of us are pretty good at, and a spiritual body, which I think is the one that's been forgotten. So when we went into this practice at the beginning, we actually reconnected in the way, perhaps is useful for others to reconnect with the spiritual body. But are there any take homes for you guys of how we can inspire our networks to, to recognize that if we don't move into this next big movement, the climate's just teaching us to unify and remember, then we might not evolve as gracefully as we want to. So any take homes for everybody that's watching?
Yeah, I'll jump in. I think for me, I disassociated spirituality from career for a long time, and it led me down a path which today I can use the learnings, the lessons, the network, and the experience to deliver and drive what I want to do. But the fact of starting to bring spirituality into the workplace and using that as a tool to connect and engage and actually consequently positively impact, we call them consumers, I know you hate that word, citizens, I think is really, really powerful. And so my biggest takeout is to lose the fear of speaking spiritually and speaking from your soul in the workplace, because I think that's truly what's going to revolutionize the way that we do business, and we'll be able to find more harmony if we can just allow ourselves to speak our truths.
I love that. The group that I'm involved in, which is Dr. Jude Coven's Unity group, is her co-creator, a guy called Gil. The very, very first session we had at the House of Lords, a few years ago when she was launching her book, he said, if we can all talk about the spiritual side of us, which is something that we don't ever share, this could be the biggest coming out party this planet has ever seen. And I just thought, that is it. That's like, let's all come out. Let's share. Let's allow spirit to be and live through us, as it says in a lot of religious cases, heaven on earth. We are bringing heaven to on earth. Einstein said we can't fix the problems that we have with the same thinking that caused them. So clearly we've got to be radically reconnecting with a new paradigm, a new way of being, living. And I invite everybody who's listening to this, go out and be yourself, the spiritual self, the wacky self, the radical self, because I tell you what, if we go back to that thing that they used to call normal, which is the most crazy way of living on this planet that you could ever possibly imagine, then we are absolutely screwed. So there's my little soapbox moment.
I have a question back, which is hands up, who's a witch and who's not afraid to get burnt? Because last time we tried it this way, a lot of us ended up in flames.
Yeah, there's enough of us now, though. There's enough of us. The witch hunt, I mean, that whole witch hunt was a very process that separated us from nature. If you really look at, I'm sorry if anybody's religious, I'm not, but if you really look at some of the religions, not all, but some of them, most of them ask us to use a conduit, i.e. a church or a person, to have access to source or to God, right? We can all access that because God is within us, without us, around us, everywhere. So, that's been part of and again, back to a man-made law. It was a man-made law religion. It was, as money is and as various other things are. So I know that's my opinion and I'm sharing it with you, and please don't hate me for sharing what is true to me. Okay, cool. So does anybody else have anything to share on that front? Because otherwise we can open it up to the Adam. Go on, mate. And Monica, great. We've got 3 minutes.
Ladies first.
Thank you.
You are a lady.
So I think that if we move from the head space and move into our heart space and really just tap into that heart center and allow that to thrive and allow that to exude from us and all of the decisions that we make and how we live, I think that's one of the key things that we could all do, no matter where if it's in the business world, if it's in our personal lives, even amongst each other. I think it's just really tapping back into that heart space, quieting the mind and being still in the mind, and then really coming from a place of unconditional love.
Thank you. Love it. Adam?
Yeah, I think a lot of interesting things have been said and meaningful things have been said. But I think it's our duty to, how would I frame it? Try and create some crossover appeal. Okay, there's a lot of people out there who are new to a lot of the concepts that we're talking about, and it feels like all of us are relatively aligned with our thinking and our approach. But important that we can really give some simple pointers and detail to people who are interested to come along for the journey. And it's important that we get a lot of people coming along for the journey. So I would say one of the things that everyone I think has said, at least on one occasion since we started, is connect with nature, right? It's the most transcendent thing I've ever done. I'm in Costa Rica at the moment. I came here before lockdown and got stuck here. I've been here for some months. And now we're just bought some land, and we're doing a big permaculture project with kind of try and help people to understand how to be self-sufficient and so on. But it was that moment when I was on the land and I picked the star fruit, from the tree that these people that have been living there for 40 or 50 years have spent time and energy growing. I take the bite and it, wow, what, you grow stuff? Wow, if it's a city boy, I'm like, never done anything like this before, So I think it's important to knowing what I was like just 7 or 8 years ago, and knowing the path that it's taken to get me here. I think there's a lot of people out there like me, or at least like I was. I'm still evolving now, and it's important that these groups, like what we're putting together now, have some real crossover appeal, and we can, and the role models thing, and package it in a way that makes people interested and want to join in. So I guess I don't have the answer. I'm just, pointing out a problem that we need to solve as a group.
It's lovely. It's lovely. Rachel, yeah. Thanks, Ellen.
Lead by example.
Lead by example. Be the change. The Gandhian phrase. Be the change you want to see in the world.
Exactly.
It was just a quick add on to that. It's kind of know your audience. And it goes back to what I was saying earlier about the triple bottom line. I've encountered so many people over the years. I live in it's a beautiful village, but very small minded in many ways, like lots of, small villages are. But you've got a lot of the thing that I've heard is, well, what's in it for me? Why should I change? Why should I stop eating meat? Why should I change my car? And you've got to be super respectful and very kind with everything that you say. But, I tend to talk to people about, well, what's in it for you? This revolution is incredible. You'll be happier, you'll be healthier, and you've probably got more opportunities if you are going after some sort of amazing career, or if you simply want a secure world and environment and future for your family, so it's kind of win-win. But it is so important to know your audience and to know who you can kind of have these sort of real spiritual discussions with, and who you need to tread really carefully with, because ultimately we can infiltrate everybody and change everybody, but we've got to just kind of baby steps sometimes.
And this is coming from a person, I happen to know this, and I hope she doesn't mind sharing, that wouldn't sign her business deal because we were in Mercury retrograde or something, or had to sign it like before Mercury went retrograde. So, talk about knowing your audience. You actually don't really care about that, Rachel. Let's be honest.
I told my investors that. I was like, right, there's this one day, and my amazing astrologer says this is the best day in my whole life.
Oh, that's it.
Whatever I sign on this day will kind of really go places. So they were laughing, but they were so cool with it. So, and I signed it on that day, and we're doing well.
Jarvis, can I just follow up on those last 2 points and relate them to some questions here? Firstly, just an astrology bookmark. We consulted our astrologer, of course, around the launch of Humanity Rising, and 22nd of May was the appropriate date, apparently. So there we go. This question around, there's been a couple of questions around the communication question. So if we're going to engage more people, some people have been asking, how do you communicate to a mainstream audience to get them to engage with your conscious products and services, as it were? So it's that bridging question.
I'll share how we do it, and we've been doing it for 12 years. Is that I was trained, as you know, shamanically and Reiki, and all of this energy transformational work. And I started doing a bit of one-to-one healing. And I just thought, this is just ridiculous. I want to work with everybody. This was years ago when healing was a thing. I know it's not so important now, and I thought, actually, if everything is energy and everything in the universe is information, and if the building blocks are creating the experience that we're experiencing, and if we change the way we use the energy and the frequency and the vibration, then that will shift things on the outside. So what we did is we just injected the kind of the invitation to spirit working through everything that we do. So whether you're making a product, whether you're walking to the shops, whether you're whatever it is that you're doing, there's just a constant information for spirit, for the wisdom to inform everybody that you meet through the tools and the physical world that you engage with. And we do that through our magazine and through the products that we sell and people that we meet. So that's how it is for us. And you reach, you know, you're reaching people way beyond your immediate network.
So in our case, we have decided to create a collective and a community around our brand. We are opening up for financing because, you know, we need cash to grow the business, and there were many ways available to us to do that. We could have taken cash from one high net worth individual, and you know, but our purpose with Avallen has gone beyond just the spirits world. We also believe in education and financial education. The difference between, say, your traditional model of rich man, poor man, we really do believe it's down to that knowledge. And so we're crowdfunding for equity, which means that we're opening up the business and allowing anyone for as little as £10 to have a piece of what we're calling the apple pie. But the reason we're really doing this is because then we can also create an energy and a community around the brand. And I think if you think back to People, Planet, Profit, and let's definitely use Jarvis's word for profit, because I don't know that we need profit. We just need abundance and enough to sustain ourselves. But in our case, yeah, it's the collectivity and the community around the brand, and then that, hopefully that energy will expand beyond our immediate core. So yeah, I think there's ways and means to do it, but there are interesting and fun business models that you can apply, which will engage people even through their subconscious, and eventually it will trickle into their consciousness.
Awesome, thanks.
I guess for us is twofold. One is, again, looking inwards, right? The company that we have, I'm sure the guys who work for us are listening. You all know that I and David, my co-founder, we love you. You know, we absolutely love you. And if you create that energy inside the company, the stuff that you do will bleed out in a positive manner. The other way we kind of do it is to try and, so we have like a rate and review platform, the sustainability. For every review that you contribute to a sustainable economy, we'll plant trees for you. So we want to, what you'll see come soon is the stories of the trees being planted and how it's contributing, how it's helping, visualizing all of the impact that you're having. And as I kind of briefly mentioned before, we have a permaculture project out in Costa Rica that we're developing as well. So lots of opportunities for our community to come out and volunteer and get involved. And so yeah, visualizing your impact, I think is key, and definitely starting with your own company. Get that right first, get your own project right first, and the rest will follow.
Good one. Get yourself right first, and then your business, and then yeah, the rest will follow. I mean, who's up for writing in their business plans now? Planet, purpose, people, and profit, spelled HET. That'd be quite cool, wouldn't it? Can we all agree to do that from now on? How would you say we put the to answer that question?
How do we communicate it to other audiences?
Yeah.
It's tricky, isn't it? Because I agree that you know, the worst thing is to be kind of top down and preachy and telling people what they should and shouldn't do. And I think something massive that's not always recognized in this sector is that by choosing more sustainable options, you're also actually saving a lot of money a lot of the time. With things like, I'm just going to pick Tabitha's shampoos and conditioners as an example, but when you're using authentically natural organic products on your body, you don't need to have a shower every day, you don't need to wash your hair every day, you're using them much less. So it's a bigger outlay at the beginning, but you're actually saving money. So for Tabitha's, I think it's something like, I mean, you'd have to be paying a ridiculous amount of money. Like, it's not possible to get a shampoo that's cheaper when you look at its cost per use. So I think that's something that maybe is a good entry point for people, is just to understand the financial savings. And then once you've broken the routine and you've broken the habit and you've got somebody to switch the products and to experience something different, even if they came into it with a purely economic rationale, that's all right. Because once they've got into that new way of thinking and they've broken that chain somehow, then that's done. Yeah. And long may it continue. So I think the cash, I mean, always when you're running a household and you've got budgets and things, cash is always a major issue. So really underscoring the savings is going to be important, I think, for mainstream consumers to get to see and to understand.
And Jarvis, on this bridging to the mainstream, there was an issue that came up really early on in the chat that you responded to around Ecover.
Yes.
So one might think that, developing these kind of fringe products initially that are sold in, just the green shops or whatever, for them to get bought out by a bigger company and then taken into the mainstream would be everything that we'd want, because then you're getting these products like, Unilever doing more sustainable stuff, taking it out into the mainstream. So
Yeah.
how do you see, or how do all of you see this kind of creative tension between, in a way, the purity of the initial product and the company that creates it against the possibility of it getting out far more broadly to many more people, but then potentially by a company that isn't as pure and as conscious as the originator of it?
Can I just
in terms of impact?
Yeah.
I've just got a small point to make before we open it up to everybody else. And I think that it's fine. It's absolutely fine for companies to do that, as long as there's transparency, as long as customers know. So the people who are buying a Cofounder methods might not necessarily know that their money is funding a parent company that openly tests on animals. It's hideous. If there's some transparency there and the consumers know where their money's going, I think it's fine. But when it's all on the hush and it's all on the quiet and people don't know what their money's funding, and it's actually funding something that's completely the opposite of where they would want it to go, then I think it's awful.
Yeah, I mean, that we prided ourselves on curating the products that we put in our website, in our marketplace. It's like we're trying to build an ethical alternative to Amazon. That was always been our game plan. But what we do is we don't just look at the products and the ingredients and the packaging and the way it's distributed. We also meet the people, and we either meet them physically, which we used to, but now it's all over Zoom. And if something doesn't feel quite right, we just don't have them on our website. So I think, in answer to your question, there's got to be a set of values that each individual has to have for themselves. And do you want to be spending your money in a way that every single penny of it is going to doing less damage to the planet and possibly restoring the planet at exactly the same time? So Adam's business model, our business model, we will plant a tree in the tropics with Tree Sisters, a feminine-run charity, volunteer charity, for every single transaction, every single one. So we know that 1/3 of the trees on our planet has been cut down, and if that trillion trees was replanted, it would literally mitigate the issues that we have about temperatures rising on our planet, which is going to be basically the huge problem. So I think consumers have got to, in fact, you're not consumers. That's the first branding and labeling theory that is wrong. The consumer branding was actually built to serve a false economy, which we're now seeing falls down flat if we're not buying non-essential products. Non-essential products account for 80% of the products that are bought on our planet. So we know that 80% of the stuff that we're buying is just absolutely just not necessary. It's advertising and manipulation and all of these awful things that are making us buy this stuff. So if we can repurpose our values, and then we can actually do the research, because there are a lot of organizations out there that will give you the information. If you're in business, it's CPD. If you're a consumer, it's Geeky or My Green Pod. And I keep shouting about us, but we genuinely are leading the charge on it. There's banking. There's ethical banks that will only put their money back into funding ethical organizations. So you've got to do your research. And if you can't be bothered to do your research, go to My Green Pod, because we've done all the research. And it's really as simple as that. You are voting in the way that you spend your money. And so, a Cofounder method, yeah, you're buying a green product, but you're funding a company that actually doesn't care about you, your children or our future generations. Unilever is a really bad example, actually, because they claim to be the most sustainable. And yes, they are in the grand scheme of multinational corporates. But when you compare them to a brand like Willeda or BioD or somebody like that, they're on completely different levels. So download an app called Geeky and do a little bit of product searching. It's really easy with your barcode. You can barcode a product. It'll tell you how healthy it is, how eco it is, whether it's animal testing, all of that stuff, and then change the way that you consume. You have the power. We all have the power. We are 99% stronger than the people that run these organizations, just in terms of numbers. We fund this economy that is killing us. We fund all of this. And if we stopped funding it, it would fall apart. So it's a win-win for everybody.
On the soapbox again.
I think people would be interested in the name of that app you mentioned. Could you put it in the chat for people?
I will indeed. It's Geeky, just very simply G-I-A-I, and it is an app.
To the point there, and also to address kind of what Peter said is, you know, if you run a business, you almost inherently want to make money. You want to increase your profits. And so the easiest way to increase your profits is to scale, right? And the problem with scale is if you scale, you inevitably have to make decisions that some other area of the business or some other impact, maybe on the planet, for example, it has a drawback, so a negative impact on the planet. So you see these companies who have scaled to dizzy heights, and yeah, they make incredible profits, but anytime you scale like that, it always will have a negative impact. And so I would say, you know, looking at buying more locally, looking at championing smaller brands and more local brands as well is super key. And being really aware of the big brands that you buy from. You have to be hyper aware of the different types of multinational brands that you're buying from. So that's really, really important. And the same goes for communications. It was kind of a question, I think, earlier about how do we communicate this all as a company. I don't think you can, because when you scale the message as well on your own, if my company tried to scale the message of what everyone needs to do, it wouldn't be good enough. It would be my take. What we need to do is kind of create this cooperation layer where all the companies come together and all the companies create this unified message. That is the way to distribute it, in my opinion, across this chasm, and bring in kind of the layperson, as it were.
Cool.
There's
Thanks,
also
Adam.
some really
Jarvis, we're just running out of time. I'm sorry, I'm not sure who was trying to come in there. We're just running out of time. Would you like to give everybody like a minute or something to share one last thing, and then we'll need to move on?
Thank you, Peter. Yeah, I mean, I'd like to thank you all. I hope you don't feel like you've been brought into something that you didn't actually want to participate in after all. You've been amazing, and you are absolutely light bearers and ambassadors for a way of living on this planet that everybody can learn from. So thank you all. I mean, just to ask you, I don't really have a question, but is anything very quickly you'd like to share before we go and say goodbye to everybody? Should we go round? Rachel, go for it.
Oh, thanks. It was just a point about, I've been doing a lot of exploring recently about reimagining capitalism. And I know, Jarvis, this is something you and I've talked about building business models that aren't about generating profit for investors and boards. And it's actually about, I mean, we've got massive vision with our business, but that will ultimately be set up into like the Ecosia model. Somebody on the chat mentioned Ecosia. And it's businesses that basically investors can never sell their shares, they can never make money. People can take a little bit of money out to make sure that they're comfortable, but ultimately the business is set up to help the planet, and it's so empowering. So I would urge everybody just to start doing a bit of research into reimagining capitalism, because it's something that brands, world leaders and global citizens need to actually learn about and try and help push along.
Yeah, it's called a steward ownership model, and actually there's an organization called Purpose Ventures who are the absolute pioneers for this. And we also are looking into setting up our ethical marketplace. So it's a marketplace for the planet. So it will be a custodian-owned marketplace where the customers, the vendors, the shoppers, everybody involved in it will have part of the business. Imagine if we were all part of Amazon, we'd all be loaded. So, you know, just to give you that example, and also if Amazon planted a tree for every transaction, then we actually wouldn't be in the mess that we're in right now. So, you know, really consider that as well. Anyway, sorry, everybody. Tabitha, who wants to say goodbye quickly?
I'll say goodbye.
Go on, Jojo. Leave us with it.
My last thing, love your planet and be organic. And education is the key to, yes. Bye.
Love your planet and be organic.
Bye, Joe. Education is the key to positivity, Joe. There you go.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And just be yourselves, everybody. Just bring your own heart into what you do. I think then you'll shine, then it will work. Then you'll be bringing the change, living the change.
Yes, definitely, Tabitha.
We can change the mood, the sustainability conversation. There's a lot of hatred and negative energy, hating capitalism and hating the system. Let's tear it down, the government, the conservatives, whatever, right? If we can change the conversation, the tone, talk positively, talk with hope. Who said, someone at the start talked about hope instead of negative, hope not feared. That was like, wow, exactly that. Be positive, smiley. You can joke about it too. We can have a laugh. We can joke. You know, when soldiers were on the front line in World War I, they were laughing. Why? Because humans turn to laughter in times of desperation. You know, we can laugh, we can have fun. But you know, the three things: look inwards, fix yourself, upskill yourself, and focus. Those three things, bang.
And then we can giggle ourselves over the finish line. I like that.
Some of that lovely Avallen, is it called?
Avallen, apple tree in Old Cornish.
Katie
loves it.
I absolutely adore it.
I would say my parting word is stop being an observer. Everyone likes to say, oh, well, you know, I don't see things going well, and I don't see that this is going to change. And it's act, because I see it, because I'm doing it, and because I'm doing it, I know it to be true. So if we all partake, whether that is through, you know, ethical purchases, My Green Pod, but just get involved, and you will see the world through a different space.
It's that classic thing, isn't it? Be a part of the solution and not the problem.
But it's so true, and it's just a matter of perspective. We have so many truths, and they're all very different, but we just need to shift where we're seeing things from, and then all of a sudden it will make sense again.
I think that's what Einstein was alluding to about the thinking. Yeah. Can't think our way out of this the same way that's put us into it. Love that.
Right.
And I just wanted to echo what Adam said, and really just tap into the oneness that we all have and really see that, versus seeing so many distinctions and seeing our differences. Just really see our oneness in nature and oneness amongst ourselves.
Yeah, loving diversity.
Right. Well, thanks, Jarvis. And I think everybody has had a chance to share a last word. Yeah, thank you all very much. And you know, as I've been listening to the stories and your perspectives, there's a few patterns that have come out that have really struck me. And one of them is, I often use this Aristotle quote, you know, this is run by Ubiquity University. So we're basically developing a learning system, offering a learning system that enables people to develop the mindset, tool set, skill set to make a positive difference in the world. And I'll often use Aristotle's quote, which is, wherever your passion meets a need in the world, therein lies your vocation. Where your passion meets a need in the world. And that's what I've heard. I've seen like all of these amazing people on the call today who have a passion connected to a need in the world and turn that into their calling and vocation. And that's extremely inspiring. So thank you for that. And there's an interesting, you know, thing about this word passion. I'm a linguist originally, so I can sometimes get into the kind of details of the words and the language. And I was interested in the source of the word passion, and I looked it up, and it's actually the same word source as the source of the word pain initially. So pain and passion actually come from the same place, which really struck me. And as I was listening to your stories, and there's something that each of you somehow that has triggered each of you around care, around a deep care for something that also is connected to a pain that we feel when we see the suffering of people or life on Earth or other animals, and turn that into a passion to actually do something about it. I think it was Adam who said, like, find the biggest burden, as it were, and turn that into your work, turn that pain into the passion. And that's, in terms of the pain that seems to underlie so many of us, particularly in the Western civilization, is this disconnection from the earth, this sense of forgetting who we are, that you can trace back to a specific point in time in terms of our collective evolution that happened just before and was part of this moment when we did indeed go out and burn the witches, because we were in the precognitive sense of instinctive knowing that we were the earth without even thinking about it. We were just experiencing ourselves as one, just as the child experiences themselves as being one with the mother until they're about 2 or 3. They don't experience a sense of separation. When we started developing that sense of separate self, rather than transcending and including that past, for some reason, in the development in the Western world, we transcended and we repressed that earlier stage, that earlier experience, and we cut ourselves off from the head, and we demonized anything that was to do with the feminine, to do with the earth, to do with the body. And that collective trauma is really what has allowed us to do what we're doing today to the earth. Because if we hadn't forgotten that we are the earth, then how on earth could we have done what we're doing? So that remembering, literally putting back together that we are the earth, that right now this conversation is the earth talking to itself. Right? I'm the earth talking to itself. You're the earth listening to itself. This is the earth trying to work out, how can we maintain this experiment in self-awareness that the human experiment is? Are we gonna be able to continue this? If not, it'd be a real shame, but the earth will then, and life will find another way to try to make that experiment work. But the key to that is healing that pain, turning that pain that we feel into a passion to actually do something about it. And interestingly enough, another thing that kind of crept in at the edges, and then Jarvis encouraged us to take mainstream in terms of coming out, is as we do that, as we reconnect to that sense of deep interconnectedness as the earth, we start to get access to the invisible worlds that people instinctively saw earlier, and that we can now consciously start to engage with in terms of our guides, in terms of the angelic realms, in terms of the earth and the nature spirits. And people talked about a team. Somebody talked about we ask our team, and there's a beautiful practice developed by Michelle Small-Wright around what they call perilandra, which is a conscious practice of engaging with these different entities in the invisible world. And the beautiful thing about it, when I discovered it, is she said the key of the human role is to upload the intention. So we have this free will to set direction, but then to let go of any attachment to the way in which that's going to manifest, because we can't control that manifestation process. That's way too complex. So there are all these other entities and beings who are working with us to take this intention and bring it into form. And that, I think, is the only way we're going to be able to solve the complexity of challenges that we're facing right now, is to transcend this sense of separation and the rational mind, be able to access the intuitive world, which is where it's all interconnected, and download the solutions and allow ourselves to be guided to create solutions that are going to be of greatest service to life. So it was beautiful to witness you all today as practitioners of that, of carrying this passion to help meet a need in the world. So thank you all very much again for your participation. Tomorrow, Humanity Rising continues, of course, and we have a beautiful session tomorrow that'll probably have a bit of the lightness and playfulness of today as well, which they've titled Up-Leveling with Members of the Curiosity Generation. And it's a mixture of millennials and elders playing together and exploring that cross-generational co-creativity. What happens when you unleash that? What happens when you unleash that, the kind of creativity, productivity, and genius that happens when you get these different generations interacting with each other? So same time, same place tomorrow. Join us for that session. Thank you all again. The recording, of course, will be in the library of the Humanity Rising group on the Ubiverse. So check it out, continue the conversation there as you want, and we'll see you tomorrow. Bye for now.
I guess we're still on, are we?
You're still on. People are still hearing you. But feel free to chat, but just know that it's still streaming probably.
Good fun. Everyone enjoy it?
Yeah, Rick's going to turn the streaming off for us.
It was great. It was so nice. It was like I feel like we've got a little group here. I want to keep in touch with everybody.
I know.